This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, I'm Doretha McCoy with the AARP Roots News. Our podcast today covers a program that is near and dear to my heart because I'm a volunteer for the Los Angeles City Advocate Program. I'm pleased to welcome as our guest today, Strat Maloma for AARP and Christine Rodriguez, AARP Volunteer. Before we start our interview, first of all, I'd like to welcome you. And I'd like for you, Strat, to share a little bit about yourself, your job, your title, how long you've been with AARP, and how you got started.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to be on this, and also for the opportunity to share a little bit about myself, as well as the work that we're doing. Well, as you said, my name is Strat Maloma. I'm an Associate Director for Advocacy and Community Engagement. I can't believe it that I've been now with AARP for over 20 years, for about, I believe this is my 22nd year. I started with the association in 2002 in Washington, D.C. I started off in a temp assignment with them, and then luckily I got hired working in, I started in procurement, should I say, with them. Then luckily I got hired working in the member communication side, working with the folks who pick up the phone and answer questions about membership, but also folks who deal with correspondence and so forth. I spent a little bit of time there before moving to brand, where I got to work on some of the creative side and the production side. And then in 2007, I was able to move this way out west to California, following the sunshine, getting out of the cold of the East Coast. And started off in the Pasadena State Office, California State Office, working in operations. Then I worked in communications, and now I'm working in outreach and working with wonderful folks like yourself and Christine in advocacy. So it's been a journey. I've been here for a while, but in a couple of very interesting different positions. So that's my story.
Awesome, Christine. You've been a volunteer for AARP, and how did you get started?
Well, actually, I just joined AARP about 10 years ago, and primarily for the reading material, the bulletin, and also the magazine, and once in a while, a free cup of coffee at Denny's. And then once the pandemic started, and we were so enclosed and we just stayed home, so a lot of my volunteers, even I used to do a lot of things with my grandchildren, so that kind of just stopped. So as I was reading one of the bulletins one day, I saw a blurb that said that they were looking for, that they were forming an advocacy team for the city of Los Angeles. So that immediately caught my eye, because in my previous life, I actually was an advocate for the phone company, which was first Pacific Telephone, then Pacific Bell, then Southern Western Bell, and is now AT&T. So I was familiar pretty much with advocacy, what it took to be an advocate, although not in the nonprofit sector. So that was, somewhat different, especially since AARP is nonpartisan. So, we always have to be careful on how we approach some of the communications that we have with either other volunteers or elected officials. But I've been with the the Los Angeles Advocacy Team for approximately 3 years. So, and it's been a very wonderful experience for me. So that's my story.
Yeah, I think we started at the same time on the group. So it's been a good ride. Well, again, thank you for joining us today. This podcast covers the innovative and effective Los Angeles City Advocate Program. So let's get started. What is the Los Angeles City Advocate Program? How does it work? What is it about? Strat?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Got a chance to talk about this great team. So here in California, it's also, bottom line, it's about local advocacy. So here in California, throughout California, we have about 3.2 million members in AARP members. In LA, we have just under 200,000 members. And, those are folks who definitely need a voice, they need representation when it comes to issues that come up in their local council districts, in their local city councils, whether we're talking about the local budget, whether we're talking about sidewalk repairs, transportation. This is a group that is meant to act as liaison and ambassadors and advocates to represent the voice for older adults as our elected officials are making decisions that affect older adults living in the city. So it's really designed to be sort of a two-way thing where we provide advice and input and advocacy, but we also hear what's going on at City Hall, what decisions are being made that impact older adults. So really just to be a voice for older adults when elected officials are making decisions about them.
Awesome. So the objective, more or less, is to do what?
Well, if for instance, if there's an issue that comes up around transportation, around housing, we want to make sure that we hear about it and that we're also weighing in, and that the community has an opportunity to weigh in, especially older adults have an opportunity to weigh in before those decisions get made, to let elected officials know what their concerns are. It's also a way to keep our elected officials informed about what the concerns of older adults are as they make those decisions. But it's also for us to learn and to mobilize folks when there's opportunities for them to be mobilized and to respond.
And one more question: how is it divided up? How does it, how does each volunteer work?
Wonderful. Yeah, so the way we want to do this is that we'd like to have folks who come from the community represent the community. So in LA, we have, in the city of Los Angeles, we have 15 city council districts. And we looked for liaisons, or what we call Los Angeles City Advocates, to come, each one to come from that community. So for instance, if I live in Council District 3, I'm the one who's going to be working with my local councilman to create a relationship with them, to share information, and also to keep our members within that district informed about things that come up. So within each of those council districts, we look to recruit somebody who's that we call a local city advocate that'll work within their specific council district. And then we meet as a team and share updates and also share advice and resources and opportunities for us to advocate and to mobilize on issues.
Christine, how do volunteers work with staff at AARP on this program? Exactly what all do you do specifically?
Well, with the council districts, not enough can be said for that personal feeling, or actually that personal touch that you have with your individual council district member, because you are a member of the community and you probably vote. And so that's a big key for the council person, that you are a voter. So that's number one. Number two, you're able to interrelate to some of their staff, whether it's their staff at City Hall or sometimes with the various staffs that they have throughout the district for their various communities that they serve over. The other thing that Strat pretty much said everything, but one of the things also that I find very fulfilling is the sharing, as you mentioned, that we have on our bi-weekly meetings, is to find out what's going on in the other districts and to find out if there are some commonalities, and that maybe we can share some information, which we normally do, especially with, in addition to being assigned individual council districts, we also get to volunteer where our personal interests are for the various committees that the council has. So for example, I have a financial background, so I picked the Budget and Finance Committee. So but others, for example, who pick homelessness or transportation, they share some of the findings or some of the discussions from those committee meetings. So we're able to be well informed and not having to individually listen to each of those committee members, because they are, it's time consuming and we are volunteers. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. It sounds really, really interesting and informative. How does this group, or how do you interact with the city council? Because as you mentioned, there's 15. So how do you interact with the Los Angeles City Council, which is a pretty unique group, I must say.
Well, as I mentioned, I first joined the group, it was the pandemic, the COVID had just started. So many of the first of all, there were no face-to-face meetings. Even if you were out in the community, there weren't that many community events. So I always say there's nothing like that personal touch, the facial, the looking, the shaking of the hand to kind of cement a relationship. So that initially put us at somewhat of a disadvantage. But, as we got everyone in the city, got in this country, I guess, got more proficient at Zoom meetings, we were able to somewhat interact. I'm very hopeful, and I'm really looking forward to, now that some of the restrictions have been lifted, to actually have face-to-face contact. And I'm very fortunate because the area that I live in is very close to downtown, very close to City Hall. So I'm looking forward to just taking a drive out there and to actually walk the halls, because in my previous job, I actually know some of the council people since they were council people for other cities.
Right,
so
right.
It'll be nice to rekindle some of those acquaintances.
So how receptive? Oh, go ahead, Strat.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Before we move on, can I just also add, something else that we've done to kind of build those relationships is we've also done kind of welcome information packets that each of our advisors can share with their council district. And those information packets are really to introduce the Los Angeles City Advocates to the council office and to the council member in that district, and also to let them know what the priorities for what kind of work this group will focus on. So that way, they know about us and they know who they can reach out to. And the letter also is personalized for each of the Los Angeles City Advocates, introducing themselves and the team, so that there's that relationship. They know I can reach out to Christine if she's in Council District 14. And they have a question about issues related to older adults or any other stuff, they can reach out to her.
So overall, how has the city council or how has council been accepting of this group? Do we know so far how they've been accepting the group, or have they been pretty accepting, rejecting? Is it hard to get in?
From what I can tell, especially some of the feedback that we get from my co-volunteers when we have our meetings, is that to the extent that it's possible, they are very receptive to either meeting one-on-one with us or have with some of their staff meet with us. Because after all, the senior constituency, not only are we primarily, we are voters. Right. So we really hold some sway just as individuals, in addition to the AARP agenda. And I think many of the issues that we concentrate on now, which is housing, transportation, livable communities, those are things that very much are in tune with the priorities that the council, that the city of Los Angeles has at this particular point in time. So it's a good meeting of priorities on both sides.
Absolutely. And if I could add, LA just went through election and elected a big number of new first-time council members. So for us, we're reaching out to them, and I know they're kind of getting their offices together. Then we recently met with Councilman Hugo Soto Martinez, and he's a new council member in LA. And as Christine says, they're very receptive to hearing our message, to learning more about us. But we do understand, it's an ongoing process, building those and maintaining those relationships, especially with such a big new group coming in who are kind of finding their feet in city council. But, we're just going to continuously be patient and build those relationships. But yes, it's an interesting journey.
So how do you get volunteers excited about being a part of this type of program, working with the elected officials? What do you do? How do you get us all excited, motivated?
We introduce them to yourself and to Christine.
Well, actually, I think right now what's very important, we have such a dysfunctional in general, not just the city of Los Angeles. My opinion is, we have such a dysfunctional and divided country right now. So I think it's really, really important that we get involved. And again, as we emphasize the nonpartisanship, regardless of what our personal opinions might be, that I think it's very important for all of us to be able to build that bridge. And, I'm a 60s kid. So actually a 60s teenager, unfortunately, that is, some of that idealism, I think we have to my personal opinion is that we have to kind of rekindle that and also bring that excitement back to making a difference and trying and communicating with each other. And I think this program really, really helps because we don't know. I have no idea what my fellow volunteers on this team, what their political leanings are or anything like that, but we're all working for a common goal. And I think that's how you excite people, is to tell them, that this is a goal and a priority and something to change our political environment, hopefully.
Great statement. AARP is nonpartisan. So is there training for volunteers as it relates to working with nonpartisan organizations? Strat?
Yes, there is training, but I also want to touch a little bit about on your earlier question. I think one thing that, I've worked with this group now for just a little bit, getting close to a year now. And I think where AARP is really fortunate is that, I see so many passionate people on this group and this team, folks who are really passionate about the issue, whether it's about housing and homelessness, whether it's about transportation, whether it's about health, whether it's about finance and budget and finance, how the city operates. So that's something that's priceless when folks bring that passion, but also just their knowledge. I sometimes, I sit in meetings with folks and I'm always learning new stuff. Christine is one person who's teaches us a lot about the budget process.
Yes.
Yourself, you with the issues that are going on with homelessness and with the RVs and so much more. And everybody brings something that, our meetings, I feel, are always an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to find new solutions. So I think that for me gets me very motivated, and I'm sure it does for the rest of the team too. So we're really lucky about that. But I know you had another question. I'll let you ask that.
The training
Yeah.
for, because we are a nonpartisan organization. So is it relate to working with nonpartisan organizations? What type of training do you provide? Because we do have people, as Christine said, that have their own political bents. But,
Yes.
commonality is something that we all work on. But how do you get everybody? And this is not only for us, because we know how we do it, but if someone else, another organization wanted to start this type of a group, what training do you give people? Because everybody has their own ideas.
Absolutely, and I really appreciate that question. So something that we do, and I've been fortunate to go through one round of recruiting some new advocates to the team. Something that we do very intentionally is we have an onboarding session, which is almost half a day, and we spend a lot of time focused on how we do advocacy, and we invite our advocacy director to come and present our advocacy apparatus, the tools that we have, and how and what it means to be nonpartisan, how decisions get made. Because working in this field, I think there's always going to be issues that come up that we may not necessarily have a policy for. So what happens in those situations? And the training covers that. If tomorrow you're meeting with your council member and they raise an issue about that we may not necessarily work on, but it does affect our older adults, how do you respond to it? So We spend a lot of time training folks on how we can review the policy book, if we have policy in there. If we don't have policy in there, how we can approach our advocacy director to see whether they need to review that and weigh in on that. Or if we do have policy on it, what should be our appropriate response? All that training is offered, and also just having folks really understand when it comes to advocacy that this is not a question of being partisan, but a question of representing representing what's right for older adults in the city. And when you're speaking, you're representing AARP, which is a nonpartisan, non-political organization. So, that training, we do spend a lot of time on that. We also spend a lot of time on communications. What type of communication support you are. You have the resources that are available to not only support each of the advocates, but to support you from communications, from outreach, and so much more. So it's quite an in-depth process, but training is always there. And it's not a once-off thing, it's an ongoing thing. We always like to have a learning agenda as part of our work together, so that we know we're always learning.
Awesome. Awesome. Christine, as a volunteer, what do you like most about this program?
Since I've always been sort of involved in politics anyway, I love to be part of hopefully making a difference and being able to communicate with elected officials on what some of the priorities are, and especially, sometimes as seniors, one of the things that many seniors don't have, they don't have access nor the capability of doing a lot of the stuff that we now do on social media. Mm-hmm. So it's important to find out what issues are out there, communicate somehow through AARP, communicating to them. And that's one of the things that I really like about AARP is the fact that they have print media, which is, something that many seniors, they're not computer literate. Or if they are, whatever neighborhood they live in, as my neighborhood, we have horrible, until recently, broadband capabilities. So we just did that. So to me, that's what's exciting about being part of this team at this particular time.
Great. So what advice would you, or do you have for other organizations within AARP that would like to start a program similar to this one? Strat?
I think create a charter, see what are the objectives, identify those. What do you want to achieve with this? And then take your time in terms of once you have that, you have your idea of what you want to achieve with a team like this. Then I think be very selective in terms of the folks that you bring onto the team. Bring folks with passion, with knowledge, because you can learn so much with them, and they can contribute so much to the success of your objectives. So that would be my advice.
How about you, Christine, for the volunteers, someone who wants to volunteer for something, for this type of a program? What would you suggest?
Well, actually, you don't even have to be really politically involved to start with. There's just so much information out there, as I said, that we can get either reading about it or even participating on a very local level with neighborhood councils, with some of the events. We have a lot of folks that belong to neighborhood councils, that belong to neighborhood associations, who sometimes are not even aware that, they are aware that AARP exists, but I think they look at it more on a national or broader California level, and possibly maybe some outreach that is a little more local. So and I'm not a communications expert, but somehow that we can get to these grassroots organizations of these folks that are already involved in these issues, to get excited about doing a broader picture on the issues that impact seniors and their families, actually, not just the seniors, but their families also.
Great. So lastly, is there Anything else that either one of you would like to share with our audience or staff or volunteers?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
I'm sorry. Is there any advice or anything you would like to share with our audience and staff? Anything else that you'd like to share with them and other volunteers about this program?
I would just say that you'll get a lot of personal fulfillment, and you'll also feel like you're making a difference in this world, which is also very important. How about you, Strat? I don't know. That's my closing.
No, absolutely. I really second that. I think this program allows folks to lend their voice to what kind of city they want to live in by, being holding elected officials accountable, weighing in, giving their opinions. I think in today's age, you can't but be political and be involved with your city council. So no matter who you are, I recommend you take an interest in it, in the type of city that you want to live in. And, it's your opportunity to shape the budget, talk about transportation, talk about the type of housing you want. So there's a lot of opportunities to weigh in on those things, and I encourage folks to do it.
Great, great. Well, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking your time to talk with us. It's just exciting to be around you two because I love working with you. You're all excited about it. You make everybody else want to really get involved. And I really enjoyed working with you. But I'd like to thank you all for coming. And I'm Doretha McCoy for the Roots News. And I'd like to thank the AARP and staff and volunteers for listening today. And remember, this is the place for all volunteers. Until next time, we'll see you later. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.